specializes in curriculum and instruction, accreditation, learning strategies, behavior, and general standards. She provides several workshops, including CHAMPS, MTSS, we know all about that, Motivating the Hard to Motivate, and Brain-Based Learning. Lori has both her BSE in Secondary Special Ed, Psychology, and her Master's in Curriculum and Instruction from Emporia State. Go Hornets. Recently, Lori has been integral in developing the statewide collaboration efforts of the service centers under the CASA banner. I'm sure she's going to talk more about that. And has been selected to work with the commissioner on the redesign efforts of the state of Kansas. Lori is a mom of 2 beautiful girls and wife to Matthew and lives in Anthony, Kansas, her hometown. Please give me a warm Ridge Runner welcome to Lori Jensen Wilson.
Seriously, how did we do Friday night? Oh, let me explain. This will be a participation type race. So I know you're way back there, but look at me, I can travel. Here we go. You won? Did you beat them back?
Yes.
Excellent. Good. You guys, I love it. You're the Ridge Runners. We come with the Road Runners. Hey, nice. And we are 7-1. I'm making a charge too. So we had just had state cross country. You guys just had state cross country? Yes? Yep. I got a little gal that runs like the wind, so that's fun too. So, hey, I'm glad to be here. Lots of fun stuff we're going to do today. Ignore the introduction, because who the hell cares about that? Oh, sorry, I love Jesus and I cuss a little. Anyway, oh, the grammar police ladies, love that. Grammar police. My mother was an English teacher, and so hello. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So, glad to be here today, guys. All right, differentiation. Who watched the videos? Don't show your hands, because I know some of you didn't. That's all right. What'd you think? Are you doing some differentiation? Yeah? Okay. So here's how differentiation goes sometime. Last night, we checked into a hotel room, and this lovely, lovely, lovely lady was differentiating my instruction in that she was assuming I had never been to a hotel before. Well, honey, this is the Wi-Fi password. Now, don't use any capital letters or anything like that. It's just as it is, okay? And then there's breakfast here in the morning. You can eat as much as you want, and it's going to be nice and hot for you. She was so sweet, but I thought, honey, I've been to a hotel before. That's all right. I took it in, and she was just lovely. So sometimes we differentiate too much. Like some of you might feel today, I got to differentiate a little bit too much. Girl, I know this stuff. Good. Then when it's time to talk, speak up, right? Because there's some in the room that you're teaching the same thing every day, all day, and we're not making it any different for any other kid, okay? So if you're on your laptops today, good for you, you won't need them. So you can go ahead and close the lid, because we're going to do a lot of discussing today, and it'll be fun. But what I do want you to do is get out that odd box of crayons that they handed you when you walked in and you said, I am not a cut and paste major. That's what we called elementary teachers at college. Anybody else cut and paste majors? I teach secondary. We don't use crayons anymore. Well, friends, this is what's called an analogy. Turn to your neighbor and say, analogy. Good. An analogy, right? We know what that means? Yes, of course you do. I'm not here to insult your intelligence. I'm just trying to be funny. All right. So, we've got our box of crayons. I want you to open it up and smell it. Oh, yeah, right? Nothing like a new box of crayons. Anybody else? No? You don't like the smell of crayons? Oh, come on. All right, take you back. Elementary? Yeah, all that good stuff? Okay, good. All right, so we've got our box of crayons. What are we going to do with them? Well, here's the deal. When we are talking about differentiation, the point is, who are you differentiating for? Yes, thank you. You're differentiating for students. Beautiful. So let's take a look and see who your students are. Okay? Take a look inside your classroom. Maybe you've got about 16 kids in the classroom. Maybe you have more, 30. Maybe you have 8. Who knows? But let's hope you have 16 today. Okay, so we're taking a look in our box. Who bring out the brightest crayon? Maybe it's yellow. Maybe it's that yellow-orange thing that's going on. Whatever you feel is the brightest crayon. Right? You got a little guy that's your brightest crayon? Could you even put your name on the crayon of the brightest crayon? Yeah? All right. He goes back in the box. Who is middle of the road crayon? They're there. They've shown up. They're doing the work. They struggle. That's all right. They're working hard. So who's your middle of the road crayon? Yellow, green, green, yellow. Okay, you're getting the idea. Here's our analogy. All right, who is the black crayon to you? Ooh. Right? Who's your black crayon? Ooh. Okay, we got that kid. Now, if you're feeling brave enough, if you don't want to do it, that's okay. But if you want to dump out your crayons, we're going to have crayons rolling all over the auditorium. All right, we got your crayons. Let's imagine that they are representing their skill level. How would you organize them for a task? Go ahead. Do it if you can. I know you don't have a table space. I know it's hard to organize crayons when you're sitting in the auditorium. But I am up here putting kind of all my warms together. Is that fair? And putting my cool colors together. That green doesn't really fit there, so he's in a group by himself because, you know, his attendance is spotty. Right? Then I'm left with black and white. Right? I don't know where to put them. Okay. All right. So we've got our crayons. We're thinking about the groups that kids might need to go into. But for what? Is differentiation just about group teaching? What do you think? No? Differentiation can be about the content. How many of you teach a subject area that the content changes radically day in, day out, unit in, unit out, from low level to, by the end of the unit, pretty high level? Do you teach that way? Of course you do. So look at your crayons again. Do you have some students that they never move off of the first unit or the first lesson in the unit? True? So what happens to them? Do they stay back? Or do they have to keep going? This is what we're here to talk about today. What do we do for those students? Goodness. So let's think for a second. You have an assignment, isn't it? Again, analogy. All right. And the assignment is that we're going to cover a lot of different skills within a unit. So it's like coloring a rainbow. Okay, can you see that? Sure. Just go with me for a second. Relax, it's not going to be all about crayons today. Sometimes you need kids in a group to help pull each other along. True that? Okay. And then sometimes the assignment is more like, we're all going to do this skill. And you've got some kids that want to color that thing blue, but that would be wrong. Now, it's an analogy. But what if that's all they have is blue? Do you see what I'm saying? We're asking them to do a task they're not equipped for. Right? Well, do the best you can. Just make a pretty blue apple. Are you allowed to adjust the expectation? Are you allowed to reset and ask for a different assignment? Can you do that? Yes, I'm seeing some head nods. Are you allowed, in the state of Oklahoma, are you allowed to adjust the assignments and make it different for a kid that only can color blue? Do you? And that's the question. It's hard because the minute you do, then you get out, they're off track and other kids move along. I get it. But in video, we talked about how you can adjust the grade book, etc. But I don't care about that right now. I want to talk about the kid that only has a blue crayon. Are we expecting them to do something out of their skill set? And is that what's best for them? These are the decisions you have to make. We had a discussion the other day. I also help our CTE program, Career Tech Ed. You guys know that. You guys do a beautiful job with CTE stuff in the state of Oklahoma. And one of the gals I worked with around the state, she said, well, I was helping a school with the CNA program, and I happened to do a training for the state of Kansas that helps students with special populations get a little bit more enrollment into CTE, right? Perkins 5%, y'all are aware of that. So, she was talking about, well, you wouldn't put a kid with disabilities in that CNA class because they couldn't pass the test. Fair statement? No. Right? In well-intentioned? Yeah. You don't want to embarrass a kid. We don't want to do that. Have you ever been in a class and been embarrassed? I bet you remember the time, date, and teacher. And we do it all the time. I had a kid that refused to do spelling. Again, I was a teacher of kids with disabilities, and every time I mentioned spelling, he would clear my desk or punch somebody. What the hell, Luke? What's going on? And finally, we dug down deep enough that he looked around at the buddies and said, you guys know why. Yeah, we know why. 3rd grade, spelling bee. Ooh, it'll be fun. Let's take him to the auditorium and make him spell on the stage. That'll be fun. Not for Luke! He went himself in front of his friends, and therein began his love language when it came to spelling. So I had to assure him, buddy, I will never, ever, ever embarrass you in front of a group with spelling. Doesn't mean we're not going to do the skill and work on it, but I'm in the CNA class. And the likelihood of their ability to pass the test is pretty low. Let's just be honest and call it what it is. But that doesn't mean they're not going to learn something from the experience, amen? Okay, so that is what we're here about. Yeah, I'm pulling on your heartstrings a little bit, just a little bit, because it's not about, I'm not organizing a class in groups. If that's what you think it's about, you need to lean in a little bit this morning. I used to work with a motivational speaker all the time, and he had a little phrase. It's called Go-Go Whippy. Y-O-G-O-W-Y-P-I. You only get out what you put in, love. So that's this morning. You've only got 3 hours with me. You've only got 3 hours. To dig in a little bit for that guy that wants the CNA license that is going to struggle on the test. Pull out your white crayon. Who is your white crayon? And maybe you weren't thinking about it this way, but maybe you've got a kid that has limited skills. What happens when they go color the apple? Right? And you know what? They feel like a white crayon. They feel like they can't succeed for you because they haven't succeeded yet in school. Right? Have anybody like that? Were you ever like that? Probably not, because you, successful you, are here. But I bet you know somebody that felt like that when you were in school. So what can we do for that guy? They can't read, they hate math, and they're in your science class. Super! And we wonder why their behavior is bad, or we wonder why their attendance is low. Oh gee, we know why. So what do we do for that kid? Here's an idea. Now ignore the math on there, but look at the black piece of paper. It's an analogy, friends. But could you set them up for success in your classroom, making sure that their assignment, while everybody else is doing the math homework and the practice that was assigned, their homework is a little different. Their practice, not homework, right? Their practice is a little bit different. To make sure that for once in their life, they feel good about their work. They got an A on the paper. But it's not what everybody else has to do. Yeah, exactly. We're here to to teach children, not robots, right? You can differentiate their instruction if it means success. Because what's more likely? That we do homework and they struggle again, or that we create an assignment that they are successful with? What happens the next day? What happens the rest of their day when they've had this experience? Are you with me? So turn to a friend real quick, because we're going to do this a lot, and then you'll hear me when I bring you back. Please come back. Turn to a friend. If you're not sitting near a friend, you might want to move, because I do turn to a friend a lot. All right? Thank you, guys. Turn to your friend and talk about, in your content, what could be your assignment that has the black piece of paper? Everybody get the analogy? Of course you do. All right? Turn and discuss. Go. One. Thank you very much. Okay, so if you're saying, well, nice idea, lady, but I'm not real sure what that black piece of paper would be for me, that doesn't mean that you're a bad teacher. It means sometimes we, right? It's tough. It's tough to know how low to differentiate. Like my friend at the hotel, she went a little too far. That's okay. She was adorable, right? How to find the Goldilocks, right? How to find differentiation that's just right. Because let's say we're working and learning piano. How many of you are a pianist? Oh, good for you. Okay, good. So when you learned, obviously you didn't start off with the hardest stuff, right? But research teaches us that if we don't get a really good range of frustration, then we don't get the learner to move on. If it's too easy, they give up too soon. If it's too hard, they give up too soon. Yes? Yeah. Now, you've got Susie Sunshines, is what I call them, the 20% of your kids that are going to learn in spite of you. So good luck to them. Super. That's not who I'm talking about, right? And it's not necessarily on the bell curve, the lowest end. I'm talking about that 30th percentile kid. Fair enough? Where's their frustration? So in reading and comprehension, do you guys do AR around here? Yes. Okay, the AR test, you read a book, you take the test, right? Write questions. Not my favorite, but whatever. Do you know where we want kids to score? Correct. Ding, 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 ding. It is not 100%. If it was 100, it's too easy. Too easy. So when my kid came in and said, 80 on the test, woo, woo, she's like, what are you doing? Right? Too easy. Because if they keep getting 100, Susie Sunshine, then we need to move up, either to Lexile or something. Right? So you've got to find the frustration level to where a kid wants to do more, feels compelled to do more. It's not too easy, but how do we send in that direction? So on the video, we were talking about examples of practice where maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the easiest, right? And then you ramp up to the harder stuff. So if you're thinking about a level of frustration and trying to figure that out with a kid, are y'all with me? We're looking at, 100 pieces of homework, well, not that many, but okay, right? 30 pieces of homework. It starts out easy, gets harder. We've got a kid that's unmotivated. We need to find their level of frustration. How could you use those 30 problems, that they start out easy and end up hard, how could you use those 30 problems to find out the level of frustration for a kiddo? Talk to your neighbor, go. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? Okay, 30 problems, easy to hard, got a kid that's struggling, how can you use that piece of homework to find out what they know, what they don't know? Go. We're talking about some reflecting on their work, right? If you hand the piece of paper and they didn't do anything, but there's some doodles there, we know that they were interested, so it's a good reflection. What are some other ideas? What can you do?
If you do it on a scale, you can see that it's naturally correct.
So if you didn't hear it, coaches, it was that if you do, sorry, am I making this? Yeah. This isn't my first. All right, so if you give them the scale and they stop at 17 or whatever, so I read an article, it actually came by way of CHAMPS. Are you guys familiar with CHAMPS? CHAMPS is a behavior tree. Yeah, it's good stuff, right? Oh my God. You have a trainer here? Okay, cool. So if you have CHAMPS questions, holler. It's good stuff. Lean into it. But it's not about a poster. Oh my gosh, CHAMPS has nothing to do with the actual words CHAMPS. So anyway, email me for more. But Sprick says, do you have a trust level with your students that if you assign them 1 through 30 and they struggle on 17 and 18 and look good either, that they can stop, make a note, and turn it into you, and you know, and they know that they met their level of frustration. And you are okay that they didn't do 18 through 30. Because I don't want kids to practice skills they can't do. They're just going to practice wrong. And then they're going to ask their parents, and then they're going to get a phone call. Right? So, do you have the level of trust that kids can say, that was it for me? I couldn't move farther. Are you going to have some kids take advantage of that?
Yes.
And what will happen as a result? They're not ready for the test. The grade will show up on its own. Don't worry about it. When I talk to schools about behavior, I say, hey, Elsa, let it go. If they're going to cheat on the homework, let it go. I don't care. Of course you care. But it's going to catch up to them. So don't worry about it. I just couldn't make it past problem 3. I just couldn't do it. Oh, that's too bad. Move on. But for the kids that it would benefit, oh my gosh, can you imagine the power? Can you imagine them walking in and saying, help me, and thank you? I think it might happen. So that is one way, it's a beautiful way to use that. Here's some others. Just do the evens. See how far you get. Because some kids, when you're sending them home with 30 problems to do, they don't have the time at home. There's no environment at home that says do homework. They don't value it. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Anybody? Yeah. So, in class, do the evens. Let's see how far you get. Find your level of frustration. And then once you've found it, what's next? What's next for problem 18 amongst you and that child? Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, right? Or, who's got 18? Can you group up some kids and have them teach each other? Yes, as long as it's a good environment of trust. So we're looking for these ideas of level of, what happened? Oh, I probably did this. Aha, level of frustration, okay? This is one of many ideas that we're going to share this morning. Here we go. Do you have a broken crayon? Of course you do. You have a lot of broken crayons, right? What can we do about it? Turn them into that, right? So think about who your kids are and put a name on them this morning. Because if you haven't done that, if you haven't actually looked at a purple crayon and said, oh my gosh, if that isn't Jimmy, I don't know who is, right? You need to. Because if you're not here on behalf of some certain kids in mind, this isn't going to be valuable for you. And you might as well go on and work on plays for next week's game. Whatever. Alright? So get some kids' names associated with who you're seeing, and let's think about what we can do about it. Alright, so we are going to dive into these 4 ideas again. If you watch the video, this is very familiar language. Woot, woot. And the first one is the biggie. Hello. Anybody? Anybody a Bloom's Taxonomy fan?
More of an asshole priority.
Yeah? Have you heard it till you're dead in the head? Good! I know, really? Okay, then let me tell you a little story. Did you notice a few years ago how the levels of taxonomy changed? Right? Did you notice it used to be synthesis was the top and now creative is, or create? Do you know why? What? Were you guessing? No? Okay. True story. Dr. Bloom had his daughter working for him. She kept saying, Dad, no, synthesis is not the top, it's create. And he said, honey, you don't know what you're talking about, you're cute. And he went on. He died, she took over, she changed it. True story. So, be careful what you're leaving your kids. All right, so if your blues in throughout, great. But this is the tool to use for differentiation. This is it. Think about level of frustration. Point to the chart where you think question 17 was. It's an analogy, kind of, not really. Where's question 17 on your 1 through 30? For some of us, it's not that high. It's not into evaluating. It's not into applying. That's okay, because you're a baseline content person. But with Bloom's, it could be. Change the verb. I know you know Bloom's, but in thinking, if you were thinking about a certain piece of homework tied to that 1 through 30, walk through it with Bloom's. With that content, are you getting to create? It's okay if you're not, by the way. If the homework doesn't get us to the top level, that's okay. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. But what we've got to do is make sure that we're getting on up, but we're applying by the end of our unit. What's the difference between applying and then the top 3? That's why I love this version of this chart. I gave it to you on purpose. The reason is, you're jumping the broom there. Who's in charge of the learning in the first 3 levels? Yeah, you are. There's right and wrong answers, correct? Yeah? Okay. Then we get into analyzing. And now it gets a little bit more subjective. True? That's good. But how do we grade for that? Oh, for Pete's sake, Elsa, let it go. We grade with rubrics. We give them, right? You know that. We give rubrics. We say, this is how I'm going to grade. And if you're going to grade for their presentation quality and that's not told to them in advance, you're not going to know. Okay. Let them know. And you let them know through the rubric. But after that, now it's on their shoulders. Right or wrongness, now if they mess up the basic facts, yeah, okay, I'm with you. But use the verbs. There's the differentiation. So think about the last week's lessons. And maybe it was a weird week or something. Just go with me, right? Think about your last unit that you've just been teaching, or chapter, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, everybody got something in mind? All right. When were you at knowledge level? And then did you get to create by the end of the unit? Or how high did you get? Okay, let's break that down just real quick. If you need to discuss with a friend, super. Did you start at knowledge or remembering? And did you get to create? And again, it's okay if you didn't. It's not a requirement. Okay, discuss with your neighbor. Did you get throughout Blues with the last unit? If you didn't make it through, again, that's okay, but you got to higher levels beyond, did you get past applying? And here's the rub, guys. Your curriculum will probably get them to applying, but it's on you, the teacher, to get them a little higher. Some of our books do a nice job of asking higher level questions, but you can't make a very good true-false test, multiple choice, with the top 3 levels. You can do it, I know, but why would you want to? So I want you to think about, how do we assess? How do we check for knowledge in the top 3 levels? Because here's what the data is telling us. Teachers get to applying. They get to that level. But then we don't know how to jump the curve. That doesn't mean you're a bad person at all. It just means when you get to those verbs of categorizing, organizing, that's okay. That's pretty easy. We can do that. But then judging, critiquing, ooh, ah, that's hard. So the best assignments in evaluating and creating, if you can't do the work, which I know a lot of you have curriculum that you can, awesome. But if you can't do the work because it's going to take too much time, you got to keep moving, then you have the discussion. What are you doing the last 5 minutes of class? Are you allowing kids to pack their bags and get ready to go, or are you still teaching? We want to teach bell to bell, don't we? Yeah. So keep your verbs handy. Whatever they were working on, we're going to stop and use one of the verbs from the top 2 levels to discuss the work. Thinking about the last unit you just taught, what would that look like? So you shut down 5 minutes, you pick a verb, write down a question real quick that would align to evaluating or creating. That you could have a good 5-minute discussion with your kids about before they leave. Are you with me there? Now, can crayon purple do that discussion? Everybody can discuss. And maybe they don't have value to add. That's all right, they're listening. So that's the way that beyond practice, you gotta be with me here, beyond practice, we get them to higher levels of blooms. Because then the evidence tells us this. Coaches, you know this, in order to be better, you gotta do what? Well, there's a lot of things, but you gotta play better, right? You gotta view better, you gotta watch better. You gotta see it. So this is the way we do that. That if I can only get to number 17, and I'm clamming up with frustration, how do we move that kid beyond? Because we don't just give them problem 29, 20, and 30 and say, do your best. We do that, that's not working. So what we can do is have the good discussions at the higher levels without the pressure of homework and a grade. Are you with me? Without the pressure of homework and a grade, we can get to higher levels of blooms. And research tells us, if we do that, then when they go back to 17, 18, 19, there's some confidence there. So if you're worried about the crayons in your box that can't do the work, this is one of the best ways to help them in your core class. MTSS is going to help them with the basics. But with your content, you got to ask the higher level questions in a non-pressure environment. That's a lot. All right, break it down. So where are you at? Do you need to design questions for the top 2? Do you need to reimagine a classroom environment where this could be successful? Do you need to know who can't get past question 17 or whatever? How do you need to make this move forward for you? So here's what I'd like for you to do. I'd like for you to find a group of 2 or 3 and work. Okay? So what we're doing, in your handout, turn in your hymnal to page 2. Thank you. If this tool will help you imagine what the next steps are, great. If this tool here, this graphic organizer doesn't help you, that's all right. That's okay. You don't need to use it if it doesn't help you. But I want to give you a tool where you can think about, okay, in the last unit, or if you're like, I don't want to reflect on the last unit, I want to plan for the next one. Go, okay, do it. What activities, what learning is going to happen in the first 3? You don't don't have to, oh, well, problem 2 and 4. No, I mean, just you know the information, you know the content. What activities are we having students do in the first 3? How are we getting into analyzing? That's thinking about the first 3. That's organizing the information from the first 3. This is where graphic organizers are your friend in level analyzing. You gotta use them. Really? Yes. Graphic organizers. We need that pre-adolescent and adolescent brain. We need to help it do a little mapping because it doesn't want to do it on its own. Right? That's what graphic organizers do for you. They help the kiddo map their thinking. Gotta do it. Okay? So, that's what we're doing at that level, or analyzing, is kind of reshuffling, rethinking about the content from the first 3. Then, how are you planning to move on to the higher levels? Again, maybe your curriculum already does. If you teach something with technical education, you almost started creating, and we have to back up. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Right? So, think about your levels, and then, if my idea of how to move our kids, I'm not worried about Susan Sunshine, I'm worried about the purple crayon that can't get past number 17. How do you move that kid onto higher levels? And maybe thinking about doing it in a very non-threatening way. So I've got some columns for you. Well, verbs, learning outcomes, assessment, whatever. If that works for you, great. If it doesn't, just make some notes on this paper. Does everybody understand what I'm asking you to do? Moving on your content to higher levels, and especially thinking about the kiddo that we need to differentiate the instruction for. I'm going to give you about, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes here, which is a long time in presenting one. Okay? All right, go. Thank you guys for digging into this. I appreciate it. You'd be surprised. Sometimes I encounter folks that choose not to, so I appreciate that you all are having such good conversations. Thank you for that. Okay, so just some further thoughts on this. And again, you might have bloomed all day long in college and you're tired of blooms, but it is the structure. DOK is fine too. Is anybody a depth of knowledge person? Not so much? Okay.
Don't understand the term.
Sometimes science...
No, I don't understand the term you're saying.
You don't understand depth of... Okay. Depth of knowledge is... thank you for that clarification. Depth of knowledge is just a different way to organize Bloom's, that it has 4 levels instead of 6. And it really focuses on the output, whereas Bloom's is a little bit more on the input, but then gets to the output. So it's a slight differentiation. It's just some schools have reorganized curriculum according to DOK, depth of knowledge, and I just didn't want to overlook that if you have been that person. There's no need to look it up if you're not a DOK person, really. Bloom's is great. Stick with Bloom's. So the challenge is twofold. One, you might need to think about your curriculum and what you're teaching day in, day out. And it could be that I've looked at your state standards, they are organized in this kind of format where there's some objectives. That's good. Other states don't have that. So you have an objective, formatted set of state standards. If that's not your gig, that's all right. I'm just telling you, that's how they've organized your standards. It's organized around the verbs. And it's literally making sure you have a high enough verb to meet what level of rigor that we want to see out of kids. Well, that's fine and good. And from our perspective in Kansas, then they are taking this questions and aligning that to that level of Bloom's. They're being intentional about it. So that they're not going to ask a higher level question in Bloom's than the standard is listed. You may get Charlie Brown's teacher going on in your head just then. I did, and I was telling you the information. But it's just, I'm just saying, If you don't have a great textbook, your standards are aligned in Bloom's. But that's wonderful. You need to get your curriculum aligned that you know you're covering the highest level that you want to within what you're teaching day in, day out. We have forgotten that practice because it's boring. Okay, I get it. I do. Who wants to sit in a room with me and align your curriculum? No one. I get that. But the point is, if the practice is staying down at application and we're not getting to analyzing, whoops, we got to get there. So this isn't busy work, you guys. You've got to pre-think each unit and make sure that you are at least asking great discussion questions, if not providing practice at the higher levels of Bloom's. That's step one. But step two is thinking about your students. Did anybody look at your box of crayons? Again, it's an analogy. And think, all of my crayons would have been black in the 4th hour. Right? Or at least deep purple. Are you with me? I know that. I know that. So that curriculum pacing is going to be different than hopefully 6th hour where you've got the rainbow and maybe even a lot more reds than blue, or whatever, right? So you've got to think about, one, how are you organizing your curriculum to make sure that you're getting to the upper levels of Bloom's. But two, now the work that we're doing today is differentiating to make sure that you know how each student is going to plug in. So just pretend that you were able to fill out the whole chart. Even if you didn't use my chart, that's okay. Just pretend it's there from the last unit that you taught. Everybody with me? What was the last unit that you taught? Chapter, whatever. Everybody got it in your mind? Can you see the objectives based on Bloom's? Everybody got it? This is a visual. Okay, now here's the actual. Put the names in. I really want you to do this. Write the names down from hour 4 or whatever. Just pick one class and write the names in. What level did they master? What level on Bloom's do you feel that those students mastered? Just use initials if you want, that's fine. Or paras, just think about the kids that you're helping. What level of Bloom's are they getting to? Make it work for you. But I want you to plug in some actual names or initials into this chart. At the low end, there's no chance in hell we're ever going to get to create level. Now remember, we're going to talk about it. When I work with my kiddos, they would struggle with the vocabulary of the literature that they're reading. But when I talked about what happens to the character, why did they die, what are they going to do tomorrow, they were into that. They just were bogged down with the application of vocabulary and writing, which is so important. So they were struggling in the first 3 levels, but they couldn't wait to do the top 2, to talk about it in class. Yeah? Okay? So thinking about that distribution, if you put names on that list, now that starts to give you an idea of how to move forward. This is not easy work, guys. It's an easy concept, but it's not easy work. So you might want to set yourself a task this afternoon or whatever of go ahead and writing down for each class you're teaching, where do you think they fall? I know you know, but have you done it where you put it on a chart and really think about, okay, now who do I need to move on? Who needs to skip the first 3 and just get into the creating and now analyzing? Let's put that up. Right? We can't keep doing the same thing every hour. Or else we're going to just keep getting the same results. Okay? Hope this is working for you. So take a moment, jot some notes, start a to-do list. Maybe it's checking through your curriculum and acknowledging that your curriculum might not get to all 6 levels, and that's okay. Maybe it's intentionally planning for some discussion questions at the upper level because you don't think your kids are going to transcend beyond analyzing. Maybe it's finding some good graphic organizers that those first 3 levels, they got that, but they don't know how to think about it. We're trying to jump from application to create. Let me give you an example. Here's the 30 vocabulary words that you need to learn, and this is Monday, and I want you to look them up, write them down, and use them in a sentence. What? You just went from remembering to creating. And then we wonder why they just use the word in the sentence. You know, we want, what? No. So first of all, reduce your list. Look up Marilyn Springer's work. Look up Anita Archer's work. I'm not name dropping here, I'm trying to give you a challenge. Look up their work about what they say with vocabulary. They say reduce the list and get to mastery with 6 to 8 words in the unit and then play with them. Because if I master the word democracy, now I got democratic, now I got being a Democrat, and go from there. And then you have a good, lively discussion about how does demonstrate relate to democracy. And it's just fun. And they're playing with the words. Just playing. They're learning. So we do that on Monday. You walk in and you say, this is the word Democrat, or democratic. Democracy, that was the word, right? This is the word democracy. You don't have them pronounce it themselves, because we're not going to spend time with that. We're going to get straight to it. This is the word democracy. What do you think it means? Go look it up. No, don't. Don't go look it up. Discuss. What does the word mean? Because your 17 kid, your purple crayon, they're going to get a ton more advantage of listening than they are to go look it up. If this is new knowledge to you, it's all right with what you've been doing in the past, but welcome. Change practice. So talk about, use the Frayer model. Are you familiar with the Frayer model? Write it down, F-R-A-Y-E-R. It's a beautiful graphic organizer. And you put the word in the middle, and then it's got 4 boxes. Does that sound familiar? And in this box, you define it based on who in the room thinks they have a definition. And this one is telling me what democracy is not, instead of what it is. Try that with behavior. This is what using your hands and feet with care means. This is what it does not mean. Right? And you use the other 2 boxes for fun. Use it in lyrics. Draw a picture. Now we're talking. That's Monday application. Then Tuesday I practice, I discuss, I come back and so forth. Now by Thursday, now use the word in conversation. Not in a made-up sentence that is just turning in for homework. Set them the challenge. If you can use the word democracy in conversation with your parents or whatever, students, friends, jot it down, I'll give you 2 points. Are they going to cheat? Who cares? Let it go. So now we're moving along Bloom's, but not too fast. And the kiddo that's struggling, they're going to get a lot more out of those activities rather than look it up, write it down. That's a low-level task. Doesn't bear much weight. So what are you doing in your classroom that might be there? I'm not trying to criticize the teachers. We're fast, right? We're moving through information. Got to get ahead and then we get going. I get it. But some of that practice is not helping differentiation. And if you look at the kiddos that you have in each level, you might realize, wow, I needed to slow down or I needed to speed up. Right? You've got to get the visual of knowing each of your class and how they're doing with Bloom's and the levels and how to move them forward. Okay? So, possible to-do list items. 1. Do a little class list for each class that you teach. 2. look at your curriculum and make sure that you're getting to the upper levels of Bloom's if that's what's appropriate for your content. Are you getting past the bottom three? Through discussion, certainly activities, right? Hands-on learning, yes please. And then, task number 3, how am I going to help those kiddos that need to move, that aren't going to naturally move with the normal assignments I give? And I have some other ideas for you throughout the morning for that, okay? All right, so do some reflection, write some to-do lists, and then we'll move forward. Version of differentiated design instruction. So if you're looking for more, those are the folks I mentioned. It might be Marilee Springer. I think actually it is instead of Maryland. And then Anita Archer, Dr. Archer, she's awesome for anything, but especially, well, in this instance, not especially, but her stuff with vocabulary is great. She is also a wonderful model for how to teach MTSS time. So, right here. But I don't know about you guys, in the state of Kansas, we are actually trying to get kids to think about their future. What are you going to do when you leave us? What do you want to be when you grow up? And should the math classes you take now in high school make a difference based on when you go to your post-secondary choices? This is radical stuff. Not really, but it's awesome. Love the work. If you want more information, let me know. So, let me tell you something though. Prefrontal cortex, not ready to make those decisions. So when we ask kids at age 16, what do you want to be when you grow up? They say, Patrick Mahomes, thank you very much. But you're not out for football. That's all right. Right? So, what do we do about it? We practice. We practice, but we try not to expect. Are you with me? Right? Practicing means discussion. It means planning. It means moving kind of slower than just jumping straight to what do you want to do. So in the classroom, if we move from what does the word mean straight into how do you use it, that's jumping too soon. A graphic organizer helps to map the brain. It helps to map the thinking. Because the pre-adolescent, the adolescent brain, the middle school brain is doing this. Squirrel. Right? Am I wrong? Tell me I'm wrong. No. So, it's like, oh, you middle school teachers, God bless you. I don't know why you do what you do. But those cats need herding, and so we herd the cats. That brain needs some structure, and it needs some help getting there. And the graphic organizer is the best way to get there with schoolwork. And sometimes the graphic organizer can be it's obviously visual, but it doesn't have to be on paper, is what I'm trying to get to. Right? It can just be physical movement in order to learn the information. But regardless, you've got to get this thing thinking in an organized manner. And you have to practice that and give it tools to do that because it does not want to do it on its own. So without some way to organize my thinking, I'm running around crazy. So for some of your high school students that still act like middle school students, they need a little bit more structure. Yes, structure as far as sitting, they do need structure. They need behavioral structure with time, a lot of time for break. But their brain needs more structure. This is why when you say, I've given the best lecture of my life, now do problems 1 through 30, go. And they sit there and go, what? They need structure. So enter the term explicit instruction. I'll give you a free box of crayons if you know what explicit instruction means.
The one way exactly what you all of theirs potatoes.
Okay, explicit instruction, again, coined by Anita Archer, is saying, slow down, quit moving from 1 to 50. And that's what we're doing with some of our curriculum, and it's what's expected, but not for the purple crayon, right? They need step 1, step 2, step 3. Instead of saying, do this, do that. And some of our students, my kiddos with disabilities, they needed step 1A and then step 1B. Don't tell me step 3. Yeah, don't do it. Right? Are you with me? They need shorter steps. That's differentiating your instruction. That's it, right there. So for the kid that needs, just tell me what to do and let me do it. You got any of those? You got some Susie Sunshines that are like, quit teaching me and let me just do the bloody work. Fine. Have at it, girl. Go. Don't let me get in your way. I am your teacher. Anyway, don't let me get in your way. Fine, do it. That's what's happening. But then we have some students that may, okay, just tell me 1, 2, 3, and I'll progress on my own. Okay? Good? Check in with me. And then you need the kid that just needs step 1. Okay, let me know when you're done. Yep, check for progress. Looks good. Here's step 2. Are you with me here? So they're all different. Not all different, but we group them together. Look at your crayons. Who needs, just tell me the assignment, let me go. Could they not work over in a corner by themselves? That's how I learned first grade math. The teacher sat, I'm not trying to brag, but it was weird. I still remember. This teacher sat, my best friend and I at a table, gave us a second grade math textbook and said, go. And we worked through it on our own. Because, back in 19, she knew we were bored. She knew we needed more. God bless her. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. But then there were the other kids that, okay, they're working through, and then some of them need smaller steps. We call that scaffolding. Okay? Call it what you want to, I don't care. I really don't. But if you're looking for more information, look up the work on scaffolding. And what it's going to tell you to do is just giving you ideas of how to break it down even further. But I'll tell you, it just comes down to blooms. Okay? Just comes down, or it comes down to your homework and a highlighter. Just highlight the work you want them to do and then check back with you on progress. Do you have any students that you give them the work, they take off and they're doing it wrong? Oh my gosh! And you're like, sunshine! You're cute, but not, you know. Okay, so check for progress. Absolutely. Check for progress. Check for progress before they leave for the day. Check for progress that they're working online and they need to meet certain benchmarks by certain days. Explicit instruction model would tell you, we'll come back to your exercises, don't just say good luck with that. It's an intentional checking in. So you grade. You give feedback at this point. Turn to a neighbor. What's the difference between feedback and just saying, good job, you're on track? What's the difference between giving feedback and just giving a grade? Turn and discuss. What's the difference between feedback and just giving a grade? So here's the feedback. Giving a grade just tells us the data. Now, for some kids, that's the feedback that they need. I got 2 out of 10. I need to do something about that. But the prefrontal cortex for some kids, they're not ready for that. I just got 2 out of 10. Thanks very much. Now I know. You're like, there's no reaction there? Right? So that's just data. We need more. So feedback is actually the heart of teaching. And it goes like this. Talk to the student about this is the objective, right? And it might be this is your objective because the class objective is here, but right now, darling, you're here. This is your objective. I see you doing this. I see you carrying the 1. I see you writing a reflection. I see you capitalizing your sentences. Good job. I see you doing that. I see you running really fast, whatever. I see you. But the next step for you is here. And we're on the way to the goal. That's feedback. reflecting on the author's purpose. But man, I want you to dig in a little bit deeper. Next time I see this report, whatever, I want you to rewrite this sucker, or rewrite a paragraph of it, and just get into a little bit more about how do you feel, instead of just telling me what I already know. Right? That's feedback. Feedback can be, I saw that you capitalized all the sentences in the paragraph. Thank you very much. That was one of the objectives, but the other objective was to put in appropriate punctuation. So the next time I come back in 30 seconds, fill in the blank. You know the rest. Right? Feedback is, the expectation in the classroom is that you're working and you're keeping your voice level at 2 and you're asking questions when you need to. I see you doing nothing right now. So the next time I come back, boy, I want you to be talking to your neighbors and doing the work. Glad you're here today. Thanks very much. So feedback can help us with behavior model as well. Feedback. I see you doing this. The objective is here. Your next step is here. So explicit instruction would also say, I do, you do is what you're doing here, but the we do step is where I want you to move forward next time I see it. Or let's sit down and do it together. So I do, we do, you do is huge. And yet it's so simple, and what's happening is we're skipping the we do stage. So I do, let me demonstrate. This isn't the words of the teacher, by the way. I'm going to model instruction. Turn to a neighbor, what's something in your classroom this next week that you will model the instruction? Not just show them and tell, or just tell them, that you will actually get into the shoes of the learner and model the instruction. What's something you're doing next week where you are modeling the instruction? Go. 30 seconds. Okay, so you're modeling some instruction. All right, good. And sing. 3, 2, 1. And by the time you get to 1, you're supposed to stop talking. There we go. We're almost there. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you. I model instruction. I get to the feet of the learner and I show them the steps. Maybe I show them only one step at a time. Differentiate the instruction. I show them the steps. Then we do, don't skip the we do. Write that down on your notes. Don't skip the we do. We're doing that in teaching and we're making a huge mistake. We do means I do a step, you do a step, I do a step, you do a step. We do means I'm going to do a problem on the board, you guys do it on your whiteboards or whatever, and then show me what you got and let's make sure we're all together. Then turn them into independent practice. Right? So we do is guided practice. You guys, look at your purple crayon. Some of your kids will never move successfully into independent practice. I used the word never and that was wrong. But the point is they don't leave you until they've mastered the we do stage, which means they're doing half of it right. You're turning them loose too soon. Could be. Could be, right? So I model the instruction. We do it together until I feel like you got it. And Archer says, I don't know, you're a teacher. You'll know. We do it together, and then once they've got it, then release them into independent practice. Are you possibly releasing them into independent practice too soon? You don't mean to, but you might. So if all you're doing is about 5 seconds of instruction of this is what we're doing today, kids, blah, 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 okay, go. You might be moving to independent instruction too soon. Okay? Think about the explicit instruction that I do in the model. All right, so we've got some work to do with thinking about when to release students. I want to go through group sizes super quick, then we'll get ready to take a break. Group sizes are going to make a big difference for you. I know you're probably already grouping kids. That's a natural thing to do with teachers. But if you're telling me that whole group is a whole group, it might just be 16 individual students. And they're not really doing anything as a whole group together. So just think through that a little bit. How often do you want to just be this individual student, and when do you want to learn from groups? But here's one thing we know. I had the opportunity to listen to a guy from Harvard one time, and he said, cooperative learning is the answer. You can get lots of return on investment from using great technology, from differentiated instruction even, from having kids write more. You want higher rigor, have them write more. You can get a lot of return on investment from these types of practices. Or you can set up your learning to do cooperative learning. This is how much return on investment you will get when having students work together. There's a difference between social grouping together, just talking and problem solving together when needed, nothing wrong with that, but cooperative learning is different. How? How is cooperative learning different from just social network learning? Meaning sitting around asking questions when we need to. There's only one assignment that's turned in with cooperative learning. So what needs to happen differently if I have students doing cooperative learning versus just learning in a group? Think about what happens to the brain if they have to work together to develop an answer rather than just let Susie Sunshine go to work. And I know there's tons of classroom management issues when it comes to cooperative learning. I get it. And I will work with you if needed. But I'm telling you that this is how students learn best. And yet we don't do it because it's a lot of work. Think about your purple crayon. This is a rainbow activity where we have a little bit of every kind of skill set in the group. And we teach students, instead of just doing all the work for them, how to incorporate them. And to incorporate all kids. We teach them how to do that. But that's the best bang for your buck. So you can get 3 kids together and they're working together and that's fine, that's super. There's nothing wrong with that. Small groups are great, especially if you differentiate by skill with the small group. Does that make sense? So that you've got, bless their hearts, some low-level learners over here, some middle-of-the-road learners over here, some high-end learners. Your language is going to change with groups. You know that. And that's good. You should do that. But not every day, all day in the core. We want to mix them up. We want to mix them up and give them a challenge where they turn in one assignment. Cooperative learning does not have to mean 2-week unit. It can be done that day. So everybody gets the same grade, but then you can talk about effort. I know the challenge is real, I get it. But don't not do it because of the return on investment is huge if you have students working cooperatively together. So when you're thinking about grouping students, the obvious thing to do is to group by skill. I don't disagree. But when is it best to do that in the learning? So draw a picture of your unit. Just so, you know, a line with 2 in line. We start here, we end here. The assessment, right? Draw the line of your next unit. What you want to do, in theory, is have skill-based groups at the beginning of your unit. So you can put a little tick and say skill-based groups at the beginning. Because you want them to work through the material based on other like learners at that point. And your instruction to the groups should be differentiated based on who you're talking to. Their application, their homework, should be differentiated at that point as well. We talked about this on the video. This is not rocket science, but it is a good thing to do. But by the time of the end of the unit, that's when you want to move to more of the rainbow group, if that analogy works for you. You want to get a smattering of skills in there so that kids have the opportunity to teach. Now, if you think about it, if I have a group of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, my 1s are my white crayons, and then move on up to my Susie Sunshines and my group 5. When you put these groups together, and yes, you should do it, you want to put groups 3, 4, 5 together, students, then groups 2, 3, 4 together, and then a group of 1, 2, 3s. Does that make sense? I should have a picture. I need effort with that one assignment turned in, right? That will help you differentiate the grade if needed. But we're talking about one class period of an assignment, not weeks. So they do that one together as a mixed group. Hopefully they're having some fun with it, because if you look at the verbs from create in the top 2, they're fun. Fun things to do, right? So we're going to critique. We're going to judge. I already use those 2. So we're doing that together, and then you come into your final assessment at the individual level. And that assessment, too, should be differentiated based on the skill set. Doesn't mean 16 different assessments. It means stick with your 5. Group 1 assessment, Group 2 assessment, Group 3 assessment, and a lot of it's going to be the same. But Group 1 kids are not going to get some questions that Group 5 does. Because we want them to extend. We want to see what they can do with this stuff. Okay? All right, let's talk with a neighbor real quick about that structure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Grouping. The scale of skill-based groups at the beginning, and mixed rainbow groups towards the end with individual assessment at the end. Go. If you need, well, no, there's three. If you need more help with setting up this kind of structure, let me help you. I would love to help you with that. So just email with me, we can talk about it, whatever. At lunch, I'm going to meet with a few ladies that have been emailing with me. So stick around for that, whatever I can do to help, okay? You realize that this can be a tough structure to put into place. Okay, second note. You ready? All right, thank you. Second note is centers, not just for elementary. Please think about, wouldn't it be fun if you walked in and you did a little bit of work here, and then you went and did a little bit of work there, and then you went and did a little bit of work there. That's fun! Let's try it. I don't know why middle school and high school stopped using centers, and if you haven't, good for you. Not enough room? Okay. It could also be divided up on paper as well, but I still want kids up and moving. We got to find some way to transition seats, because that's part of the process, that's part of the fun and the engagement. Each brain gets to change to another activity. Okay? But I get it if room is a problem. Let's talk more about some solutions there. We've got some ideas later. So think about centers. The other thing is there's tons of centers created activities already online that can help. Don't recreate the wheel. Okay? But the last note is, a lot of you are digging into it. I'm seeing head nods. I'm seeing some good discussions. I love it. Some of you feel like, oh, this isn't for me. Wow, hello, hi. These kids are all different. So differentiating the instruction, it's not something that you say, well, I heard this lady talking this morning, but I'm not going to do that. No, I don't think you understand the assignment of teaching. Well, my my subject area isn't like that. We're in a band and they all have to play the material. Yeah, but there's practice, it's different. I'm not picking on the band teacher, I'm not here. Right? Or PE, or art, or whatever. Guys, everything has to be differentiated because you can't get students to move along unless you found their frustration level. Okay, so if you've kind of tuned me out today, hey, I get it. In-services are so fun. I get it. But you need to tune back in, okay? Because this is for everyone. It's tough to talk about everyone's subject area at once, so I'm giving some real generalities there. But if you haven't found a way for this to plug into you yet, come talk to me. Let's figure it out. Okay? All right. I'd say let's take 10, but I know you'll take 15 anyway, so I'll say let's take 10. I'll come back a little bit. I don't have a clock, so somebody shout out a time. What time? just lovely. So sometimes we differentiate too much. Like some of you might feel today like I differentiate a little bit too much. Girl, I know this stuff. Good. Then when it's time to talk, speak up. Right? Because there's some in the room that you're teaching the same thing every day, all day, and we're not making it any different for any other kid. Okay? So if you're on your laptops today, good for you. You won't need them. So you can go ahead and close the lid, because we're going to do a lot of discussing today, and it'll be fun. But what I do want you to do is get out that odd box of crayons that they handed you when you walked in. Doodling is another one, right? Or the fidget, rings. I know those can be a distraction, I know that. But the point is the kid needs something to occupy this part of the brain so that this part can learn. That's part of your environment as well. Is your environment a fun place to be in? Or do you still have welcome back posters up in January? Okay, if that's not for you, hire someone, right? Get some help, but create an environment that you would want to be in. I don't understand why we still have kids sitting in desks and white classrooms every day with fluorescent lights. Come on. We can do better than that. I'm not suggesting that you get couches if couches are not for you. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying, would you want to spend all day in your environment? If not, rethink. Music, right? M&Ms, whatever is needed to get that kid kind of in a relaxed state that they want to be there. The environment also has to do with you. Are you greeting them at the door and saying, I am glad to see you, and you mean it? That's environment too. If they don't feel like you want to see them, and that you're glad they're there, my gosh, they can tell. I was working with a school on our, we call it IPS, Individual Plan Study. Anyway, working towards kids' future. All teachers are doing advisory time at the high school level, just talking to kids about their future. How do you fill out a checkbook? I mean, life skills, it's a big undertaking, but it's working, it's happening. But I had a group of students say, why would we involve ourselves in this work? The teachers don't care about it. They feel that. They feel it when you're faking it to make it. So sometimes these days are about a little self-reflection on us. Okay? You're tired, you've got a lot of kids. I know it, guys, I know it. I know it. At the same time, if you're not giving off that vibe of, I'm a teacher, I'm a para, I get to do this work, not I have to do this work. Maybe today's the day to readjust a little bit. Because that's the environment too. So it doesn't matter what works for you. Groups and centers, that might not be for you. That's all right. But what is? Because if there's not something on here that you're saying, yeah, that's me, we got to get you there. Career-oriented environment is when, okay, so we've got a little automotive shop that 3 districts are sharing, right? You take your car over and get changed, and the kids are doing the work, love that. Get the oil change. And I walked in, and the guy was talking to the teacher, and he's a transitioning teacher, and he was an automotive mechanic for 30 years. He was like, enough. He's like, I like this idea, I want to help kids. I said, well, how's it been going? He's like, great, but the first thing I did was put on a time clock, because they don't understand that you punch in for work, and then you punch out for work. And when I punched in for work, my behavior should change. Thank you for that. I'm going to tell others about that. So sometimes the environment needs to be a little bit more career-oriented. Sometimes it needs to replicate future college courses. If we've got kids going to college, come January, courses are different their senior year, because we've got to give them some practice. Yes? Some of them need to be career-oriented so that they can start to understand that this is what I'm going to be doing in the future. So anyway, just something to think about as far as your environment and how you can differentiate it. Technology can help too, and on the email, in the email, email is a link for more ideas with that. So I'm not going to spend a lot of ideas with technology, but it can be a wonderful, masterful tool to help us with differentiation. Let me give you one example. Project management. This is what I was talking about for your kiddos, essentially. Was just this idea of what are the tasks in front of them, and can we think, kind of treat it like a world of work, where they understand what they need to do in order to pass the class, in order to pass the unit, in order to pass through the day. Different, depends on what you need to set it for, okay? Maybe for the hour, whatever. Anyway, what do they need to get done? And so it's this idea of thinking through like a project manager and setting your units so that you are telling them these are the things that you need to get done in order to pass, get the C, etc. It's a lot like differentiation by menus, right? The idea makes sense, but technology is helping us to manage this. This is a free tool that teachers are using, again, links coming to you, that you can organize your units, and kids are managing their unit work based on the project manager tool. That might work with some motivation. And we know, again, for our college-bound kids, they all have to take some online courses. It's becoming non-optional. So this might be a way to help teach that process as well. Just take a look at it. Might not work for you, that's all right. Or it could be that you go with a very simpler system that's not technology-based. But the idea is to project, this is what we're going to do, this is what you've got to get done. And if you don't want to do this activity, fine, but you've got to find the point somewhere. Right? So some choice is part of it. Anyway, take a look at that. Okay, turn to a neighbor just real quick. Is there anything with these type of ideas that might work for you in differentiating your environment? Okay? So if you need to stand and talk, that's fine for me. Doesn't bother me. But find some neighbors, maybe some new neighbors, and talk about these ideas real quick. And we'll wrap up. Okay, and 3, 2. Thank you for whoever helped me with the one. All right, 1. So, just some last ideas about helping to feel like your environment is differentiated by effect as well. Are kids motivated? Do they feel like they can be successful in your classroom? Oh my gosh, what a question. Oh, that might be your takeaway today. Do kids feel as though they can be successful in your classroom? Man, you could break that apart like a scripture, couldn't you? What is their definition of success? How do they feel it from you? Do they hear it? Do they see it? Oh, that may be the question of the day. Who knows? But some things I'd like for you to think about. Is it safe to make a mistake in your classroom? Guys, I'm not trying to play gotcha. I'm just trying to give some perspective. Sometimes we get busy. Sometimes we get frustrated with kids. A little bit. So do you think that they feel okay to make a mistake? Because I can tell you as a mom, I think sometimes my kids don't feel like it's okay to make a mistake to me. Yikes, what am I doing? I need to readjust that. So is this the same as a teacher? Do they feel it's okay? Is there a reset button with you? Is there points to be gained by the journey and not just the end? Are their ideas accepted in your classroom? Are you digging in and learning what anime is or TikTok and whatever, right? But it's what our kids are doing. We might want to pay attention. Those damn kids these days, right? So there's some thoughts on motivation I want to share with you, and this is also on the handout if you want to play along with some notes. This comes by Sprague as well, from Champs, and he gives us an actual formula for motivation. So coaches, you might want to pay attention to this too. The idea is this, you can read it for yourself, that expectancy plus value equals motivation. Fair enough? Anything times 0 is what? Thank you. 0. So if I'm not doing well with believing that I can do a task, and then if I don't value the task itself, I'm not going to be motivated to do it. So your differentiation may well start right there. Do they believe that they can do the work? Do they believe it's important? Damn it, guys, we gotta get this right. If I don't feel like I can do it, I don't want to step in the door. And so then I'm going to pull hair, pull firearms, whatever it takes to make sure I don't step in the room. The guy I mentioned, Herbert Cole, that wrote the book, I Won't Learn From You, and Ever Creative Thoughts on Maladjustment. It's a good one. He said, Johnny never got close enough to the book to show me he didn't know how to read. Right? They're doing things to make sure that they don't have to get close enough to the task because they don't think they can do it. And it might be a don't think I can, but they might know they can't. Because we aren't differentiating instruction to provide short steps to get there. No, you're not going to be able to play Debussy, whatever, on your first day of piano lessons. That's my job to get you there. No, you might not end up with your CNA license at the end of this course, but you're going to learn something in the process. That's my job. Do you believe that? Do kids believe that in your classroom? Or the crayon's broken? So they've got to believe it. And if they don't, man, where do we start? Showing them that they've survived this long, that they've been successful in tasks before, and those tasks have led to now. You've done it. You're here. You can keep adding on. I will help you. Okay? But what about the value of the task? Do they value the work? We're struggling with this more than ever with kids, as I mentioned before. They don't value the work anymore. So how do we get them to value the work? Let me give you an example. Any marathon runners in here? Yeah, me neither. I don't value training for a marathon. I do not. I don't. Could I do it? Well, I don't want to insult anybody that asks for a marathon by saying, oh yeah, I can do it. Yeah, I don't know. But I could run, I can try. Right? I have a working body. I can do it because my kiddo that I mentioned that runs, she was in a program called Girls on the Run, and they were going to do a 5K. She was in 4th grade, and they had to have a running buddy. And I was like, okay. The whole time I'm running the 5K, I kept thinking, I'm an adult now, and I can make this choice to run again. And that's what motivated me to finish. I don't want to do that. But could I do it? I could try. But do I value it? Value training for a marathon? No, I do not. I have a sticker on my car that says 26.2, go get my next guy, Dr. Cover. That is what I value. You don't value a marathon. If you do, good for you, and I mean that. I'm running friends and family, I'm very proud of it. But that's not for me. Okay, but if I had to, where would you start with me? With this equation, where would you start with me? I mean, you have to find some way to get me to value the marathon runners. Not train harder, train faster, get better shoes. That's not where you start with me. You start with a conversation. You start with some evidence of why this is important in my life. You might even dangle a carrot or two. Oh, what a cookies do for a kid, or an M&M. So think about your unmotivated kiddos. And maybe start with this kind of task and breaking it apart. What's the problem? Is it expectancy, their belief, or is it value? Okay? So that might be where we want to start. But these statements I love, and this can help you with how to get there. I had a teacher one time hang them on the wall. I love that. Comes from my research team, Safety and Gower, and they talk about that kids need to hear these 3 messages every day. Every day they need to hear the following. They need to hear that this work is important. They need to hear that you can do the task. But they most importantly need to hear, and I'm not going to leave you until you do. And I'll be here tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day, and if you don't graduate, the next year. What if I'm here? Do your kids feel this from you? I bet they did on the first day. But now we're at day, 85 or so, whatever it is. We're getting tired. Okay? And we forget to make sure and share these messages. And so we might need to reset just a little bit. So there's a guy by the name of Dan Pink, and he put together this video called The Science of What Motivates Us. And he said, these are the 3 things that motivate anyone, not just kids. And I've already mentioned a couple of these things. It's on your handout, but I'm giving you the answers. So if you watch the video, it's a quick little 10, 12 minute, be a good staff watch. The Science of What Motivates Us by Dan Pink. Daniel Pink. Whatever. And he says, the 3 things that motivate people, any people, you included, is autonomy, having choice, purpose, knowing why I should do this and why it's important, and then mastery, getting the chance to redo if I mess it up. Believe it or not, that's extremely motivating for kiddos. It doesn't mean that they have to do everything over again, but have you ever had Susie Sunshine say, I only got a 98%, can I get a chance to do the other 2 that I missed? You're like, whatever, yes, fine. It's motivating, but it's also motivating for the kids that mess it up. They just want the chance, now I know what I'm doing, can I do it again? So are you giving them these opportunities? Is this maybe a way that you can help structure the class? Think about differentiating structure by menu. All of these things fit within that structure. Every one of them. Because the purpose is to get enough points to move on. But we could also talk about purpose as far as future learning, life skills, all that good stuff. Okay? So take a look at it. If you get a chance, again, Dan Pink, The Science of What Motivates Us. But I want you to turn and talk real quick and think about one kid, certainly a purple crayon, a black crayon, a white crayon, something like that. How are they feeling? Do they feel that they have choice in their day? Do they feel like they're doing anything for a purpose? And do they have the chance to do over, except for forced do over? But do they have the chance to get to a point of mastery? So talk about your kids that are struggling. How are they doing with these 3 elements in their day-to-day business at school? Okay? Go ahead, I'll just give you about a minute. Conversations, hope you continue those. Hope you've got some good ideas for your purple crayons and your black crayons, because that's tough work. But like I said, if I can be some help, let me know. There are some other ideas, again, in that email that Tony sent out, or will send out. Don't worry if it's not there yet, it's coming. Got it? Perfect. Thank you. Good. Okay, so some other links and so forth. But like I said, I've been enjoying some emailing with some of your colleagues, so if I can continue that work with you, I'd be happy to do that. Love that opportunity. Just some things to think about. I want you to think about you again. We're asking differentiation for kiddos, which is tough. And I've heard from some of you that you are already doing a lot of these things. Great. Hopefully you found a few takeaways today. But some of us are still trying to color in the lines when we have these kids. Right? Whenever I work with our districts in Kansas about the whole individual plan of study and figuring out what kids want to do in their future, we have the conversation of college versus tech school versus straight to employment versus apprenticeship, right? What percentage of you in this room, and I know there's some parents with this, that's great, what percentage of you have a college degree? Trick question. Most of us. And it took a lot for you to get the college degree. So you already know how to color in the lines, friends. You've been using the right color to do that for years. Good job. Way to go. But if all of a sudden I asked you to do a task that just blew your mind, would you feel like that? Would you feel like I don't know what color to use? I don't know where the lines are anymore, so I'm just going to throw up on it and hope it helps. That might be what you've been asked to do this year if you're a transition teacher. Hang in there. But what's not okay is to ignore this. What's not okay is to look at that box of crayons and see all the same color. You got into this gig not to coach. You got into this gig not to just have really great lunches on Fridays or whatever. You got in this gig for kids, right? And you've got a lot of different kinds of kids. Tons of different kinds of kids. Some with gifts that you didn't even know you'd see. But it's maybe that creative gift that doesn't fit the mold. Is that fair? We need to be on the search for that. We need to look for the kid that needs the black paper to color on. So be it. We need to look for that opportunity. Because if you don't believe this statement, you're in the wrong business. And I don't think you are. You just need better tools. Right? You need better tools to do this work. But sometimes it means on October 31st, on a fall day, after a great wind Friday night, you just take a moment and look at your kids again and figure out, okay, what's going to work for them. And maybe it's grading differently for them. Maybe it's assigning differently for them. Maybe it's having them sit somewhere else in the environment. Maybe it's for once failing them and then being right there to pick them back up and say, this is what we need to go forward. I've already heard great stuff. You guys are doing the work. Just keep at it, right? Keep at it. And keep finding ways to tweak. We keep learning, right? To be a motivating person, you have to be personally motivated. You can't pull from an empty well. That's what days like this are for. But one of the best ways that teachers and paraeducators can motivate students is by being a learner themselves and not thinking they got it. You don't got it. You've got a lot. You're doing great stuff, I've heard. But there's always the next step, right? So if I can help with that journey, let me know. But dig into some of this stuff. Give it a shot. Get together with friends at lunch and just say, okay, maybe we all try that menu thing. And just see how it goes. Do a little bit of research. Active research, right? Give it a shot. Or maybe that balloons thing. Yeah, we've blown over balloons so much. No, fresh eyes. Fresh eyes on it. Is your curriculum aligned to it? Are you thinking about how to get beyond application? Are you developing good last 5 minutes of the class activities and discussions just to get there instead of taking too much time in our curriculum to do the creating? Pull out what's good for you. Take away what you need. Thanks for your time, you guys. You've been great. Let me know if you have any questions. You guys have any questions?
Reminder, back in your rooms and buildings at 1 o'clock. One more round of applause.
Lori Jensen Wilson. And at 1 o'clock, you should be working on your Versonic surveys, screeners that were in your emails last week. Have an outstanding lunch.